hope you guys are having a good day. I told you guys this morning that I would film this video, so I am filming this video. And why mascara? Why do you say? That's probably weird to most of you guys, but as you can tell, I have blonde hair and blonde eyebrows and blonde eyelashes. So as I've gotten older, they have darkened. Back when I was like a teenager, in my 20s even, they were much lighter. But I've noticed since I've hit my 30s and 40s, everything's darkened up a little bit, but still I look like I'm freaking tired. You know, I just look like I'm sick or something, and I probably still look kind of sick, but at least I put some mascara on for you guys. So, was really to make me feel confident enough to get on here and talk to you guys. Enough rambling. I told you guys I was going to do a video on lotion. So, lotion is a little more, I don't want to say challenging, but it's a little different than soap making, because with lotion, you really need to make sure that all your measurements are very precise. With soap making, you do as well. But like with additives in soap, to me, it's more like cooking than baking. With additives in soap, you can, whether it's a teaspoon or a tablespoon, is not gonna make or break your recipe, I promise. You know, like honey, oats, clay, these type of things. I mean, obviously, if you put like 4 cups, then it would make a huge difference. But, you know, like if you're just doing like a few tablespoons, whether you do 1 or 2 or 3 is not going to make or break your recipe. But with lotion, it is very exact, very precise. In my opinion, I don't feel like there's any room for play, so to speak. You really need to follow your percentages to, you know, that exact percentage. And the reason for that is lotion, and this is all in my opinion, okay, so do your own research, but in my opinion, one of the reasons you would need to follow it precise to percentage is because it has a preservative in it. And your preservative is going to help stop the growth of bacteria, fungus, microbes, anything like that. You need that preservative in there to stop that, to make it actually safe for skin. And that preservative, when used at its appropriate percentage, is really, its effectiveness is hinged on the fact that all your other ingredients are at their appropriate percentage. Because if you change one percentage over here, then that changes the percentage over here, because it needs to total 100%. And without trying to make that complicated, I'm sure that y'all know what I mean. So everything needs to be exact. Like if you're putting 1% of something in there, put 1%. Don't be like, well, 2% is fine. Unless, of course, you're just keeping it for yourself and only making like a batch really tiny and you don't care. You can do whatever you want. But something that you're gonna sell and something that you're trying to really get a feel for how this lotion performs, you really need to follow your ingredient or your recipe percentage exactly. And I feel like this looks weird with that black thing on there. I don't know. Well, I guess you're just gonna have to see my mess as always. But anyway, now I'm scared this isn't gonna. Okay. I'll hope maybe I can. What am I trying to say? Cut that out. Okay. Okay. So with lotion, you have. I don't remember if I said this already. So, all right, lotion, body butters. Lotions over here require water, emulsifiers, oils, and butters. Body butters over here require just butters or just butters and oils. Sorry, I just got a message from one of my wholesale people. Okay, that's a good thing. I was hoping it wasn't like something wrong, but they just need more soap. Okay, so your body butters and lotions are similar in the fact that they're both going to moisturize your skin, obviously. To me, personally, lotions are a little bit more pleasant to put on. Body butters can feel a little heavy, a little rich, and greasy. I know that there's different tips and tricks that you can do to make a body butter less greasy. And without making a whole video on that, which I could though, is determining which butters you're gonna use, like using a more dry touch butter like mango butter, for example, is a really good butter to use. And also I know that you can add tapioca starch and also dry touch oils to that. And you know, you could even add add some dimethicone or something like that to give it more of that dry touch feel. So I know that there's things that you can do, but I'm just talking as a general rule of thumb. Body butters are greasier and less pleasant to put on, especially I live in Georgia and it's very humid here. And so the humidity is, I don't even know what our percentage is, probably like 100%. Well, today it is, but I mean, we're high humidity down here in Georgia. So somewhere in a drier climate may enjoy it a little more. And so sometimes you do have to take in your region and your area, because what people like in the South is going to be different than what you like in the North, just simply because of the differences in humidity or weather, things like that. So definitely have to take some of these things into consideration when you're formulating your recipe. And that's why sometimes when you find a recipe online or someone gives you a recipe, unless they live in your area, then you know, it may not perform as good for you as it does for them. Like, okay, so I live in Georgia, and a lotion that I make and love and my customers love, if you were to live up in Maine, then they may not enjoy it as much. They may need something a little more emollient, you know, just something richer because it's colder up there and probably drier. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure it is. So yeah, take that in consideration. So that's one little tip that a lot of people don't talk about, or at least I feel like is not really talked about, is your area, and that is crucial to how a product performs. I know, like with soaps, if you have hard water, that can affect the performance of your soap. So there's a lot of things that can affect the performance of your product that is really truly out of your hands. So you know, that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so with lotions, we've got thin lotions, which are like, would be sprayable. That you can actually put them in a container with a spray pump, and you can spray it on. And you've got a traditional lotion, which would be in, you know, like a container that you can squeeze out or pump out. And then you have a thick cream lotion, which my personal preference is a thick cream lotion. So to me, that's like the perfect marriage between a body butter and a lotion, is a really, really thick lotion, because then you don't need to use a lot of it. If a lotion is too watery, in my opinion, then it's just not very effective. Although with that being said, I don't know what that was. With that being said, I've made a spray lotion before and absolutely loved it. So it just kind of, you know, that's why it's good to have a few different options, because what you feel like one day, you may not feel like the next. So, and in between a thin, traditional, and cream lotion, there are probably a gazillion others, but I'm trying to make this a little more simplified. So, okay, and how do you determine which lotion is which? Okay, the number one way that is differentiated between those types of lotions is your water percent. So your water percent is what really and truly is going to affect the consistency of your lotion. So the less water means you're going to have more other ingredients, such as your oils, your butters, any other additives. So therefore it will typically be thicker. The more water, I just lost my train of thought. The more water that you have, obviously the less butters, the less oil you're going to have, and just by the nature of it being water, it's going to be a lot thinner. So I know most of this is so basic, but I'm just trying to like give y'all a foundation and we can build together on this. So the ingredients that you need, and I made notes, so not that I can't remember this stuff, I just have to keep myself on topic. Y'all know how I am. So the ingredients that you need for a lotion: water, oils and butters, emulsifying wax, and preservative. Okay, that's a must. You got to have those things to make a traditional lotion. Okay, you cannot use beeswax, doesn't work. You'll find recipes like on Pinterest or wherever that, you know, tell you to use all these things and add beeswax as an emulsifier. And while it may initially thicken up your product, it'll eventually separate out, because beeswax is not an emulsifier in the true sense of an emulsifier. the way emulsifiers work is they allow water and oil to come together, okay? Like if you take a jar of olive oil and top it with water, they're gonna sit on top of each other and it's gonna be separate. And if you were to add beeswax to that, then your beeswax would eventually just like separate out, okay? It's not gonna emulsify the two together for any long length of time. So the true emulsifying wax, the best one to me is just a traditional one, emulsifying wax NF, which is just like a national formulary, I think is what that NF stands for. But basically it just means it's pretty standard across the board. So you just get it a true emulsifying wax. There are other emulsifying waxes that you can buy, such as a BTMS 25, BTMS 50, and those two are what's called cationic emulsifiers. And I hope I'm right on that. I am not, I mean, as much as I love science, sometimes all the terms I don't have like embedded to memory. Like I know what things do, but I might be messing y'all up on some terms. But the main thing to take away from that is the BTMS emulsifiers, number one, are like way more expensive, okay? Number two, they're really, really good for hair products, okay? So they're gonna be best if you're gonna try and make a conditioner, then, because basically a conditioner is a lotion. That's all it is, honestly. If you look at the ingredients on your conditioner, it's a lotion. But what makes it different, or one of the things that makes it different, is the emulsifiers and things used in it that, you know, rinse out of the hair nicely and prevent frizz and things like that. So BTMS 50 is the best one to use to me for like hair conditioning. So it's really great to use in lotions as well. But like I said, it's really expensive, and because of its polarized charge, or the fact that it's cationic, it can react with other ingredients, okay? That's the main thing to take away with the BTMSs. And I don't have a list of what all it reacts with. Just know if you're playing around with additives, then BTMS 50, tread lightly with that, because and I know because I from experience, because I've done it, and I couldn't figure out why my lotion separated. And then the more I read up on it, I realized that I think I'd added ceramides, and it just like over the course of like 3 days the lotion was like separating. I was like, I don't understand. Well, ceramides can you know, thin out your lotion, and when used with BTMS 50, they don't play nicely with one another. So that's just something to, you know, always keep in the back of your mind when you're playing with additives, especially things like ceramides that are very expensive. Then you don't want to mess up an entire batch of lotion just because you didn't double check your recipe ingredients and make sure that they weren't like one competing with the other or whatever. So just kind of a little side note on that. All right, and preservatives. There's a lot of people out there that fearmonger around preservatives. Well, preservatives are your friend. They are typically used at such a low percentage rate that it's not going to be harmful to your health. So, like I tend to use Phenanet, which that one you use at about 1% or 0.5%. It doesn't require much. Now I know like Optifin, I think it uses more like 2 or 3%. I have never used it, so I think that's higher. And then like Liquid Germall Plus is very low. It's like 0.1%, 0.5, you know, it's a very low percentage. So you figure you have 100% of your recipe, but only like 0.5 of it is gonna be your preservative, which is a very, very small amount. And that's something to convey to your customers as well. You know, if they look on there and see this ingredient that they don't recognize, which will be your preservative, in parentheses you could put preservative, I guess. You know, I'm assuming that will be within, you know, your rights, or you know, you could do that, or just make a notation at the bottom, you know, an asterisk to say what the ingredient is, if your customers are the type that's going to be concerned by an ingredient that they can't recognize, because a lot of times there are a lot of these, you know, more natural, you know, and organic guess, I don't know how to say it, but people that are just like everything has to be 100% natural, then a lot of those people have created a lot of fear around preservatives, and some of it may be justified, but I think most of it is not. And like I said, that's one of those things you have to do your own research on, but it's more dangerous to not have a preservative in there, put it that way. So you know, you have a batch of lotion that you don't preserve, you cannot always see mold, bacteria, yeast, fungus. These things are not always visible to the naked eye. So just remember that. I mean, given enough time, then typically, yeah, those spores or bacteria will grow and you'll be able to see it with the naked eye. But, excuse me, but it can be present and not be visible. And it can be present enough to cause irritation to somebody's skin or infection. So that's something to take seriously when you are creating your lotions, and explaining this to your customers as well. You know, like, if we don't use preservatives in our products, then you're exposed, you know, you're running the risk of having, you know, mold, bacteria, fungus growing in your product. And that's worse to me than, you know, the thought of having a 0.1% of a preservative in there. A lot of times when these studies have been done on preservatives and safety, then they're like dousing animals, like bathing them in these preservatives and saying, oh, well, it caused some irritation or it was hormone disrupting or whatever. Well, yeah, if you bathe in it, if you bathe in anything, it's like chemical like that, it's not going to be healthy for you. But a tiny amount in a lotion is really insignificant. And I know that there are some people that say, well, you do a tiny amount every day and that adds up. Well, true that. And I don't really have anything to say on that, except for, you have to make your own decisions and inform your customers the best that you can. But in my opinion, it's like, that's why we have an immune system. That's why we have a liver. We have detoxifying organs, that when our body takes things in that are not like, oh, I love this, our body can process that, excrete it, and detoxify our bodies. I mean, God made our bodies to be very, very intelligent, and obviously we don't want to cause harm, but that's why we have these things in place, because, you know, we're going to be exposed to things that are not friendly to our body, and our body can process that. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. See, I always go on a tangent. I'm sorry. All right. Okay, so if you start with a basic recipe, then build from that. Okay. And I know I just said that you don't want your recipe like everybody else's, and your area is going to, determine what type of things you want in your lotion. But the thing is, you got to start somewhere. Okay. So it's like starting with an outfit. You know, you start with jeans and a shirt, and then you build on it from there. That's probably not a good analogy, but you know what I mean. Like, you start with a basic and then you build on it. Like a chocolate chip cookie recipe, for example, that's probably better. I don't know where outfit came from, I guess, because I'm looking at this hideous ensemble that I have on right now. But a chocolate chip cookie recipe can be like numerous cookies in one, right? I mean, you can not put the chocolate chips in and have it. You could add white chocolate chips, you could add macadamia nuts, you could add Reese's Pieces, but you're starting with that base. And then you kind of tweak it as you see fit. All right, so there are 3 important things, ingredients that are needed for a good lotion, and I feel like this is something that is not talked about enough. Okay, regular old lotion is fine, nothing wrong with that, good, great, whatever. But if you really, really, really want to take your lotion to the next level, and you really want a good lotion, like a good performing lotion, then there's 3 things that you're gonna need. Let me not mess it up, not that that was that complicated, but okay, you want a humectant, and you want an occlusive, and you want an emollient. Okay, humectant, that's gonna be your most simple humectant, is gonna be glycerin. It's inexpensive and effective. So you want a small percentage of glycerin in your product. And there's other humectants like hyaluronic acid, honeyquat. There's a lot of other humectants, but we're just trying to keep this simple because I can see I'm already 21 minutes in and y'all are going to kill me because I know y'all ain't got time to sit here and listen to this all day. So you want a humectant, for an example, would be glycerin, okay? Occlusive, your occlusives are going to be ingredients such as dimethicone, cyclomethicone, all your dimethicones, all your silicones, those are occlusive ingredients. And also butters. Butters can form an occlusive barrier on the skin. So you need that. And then your emollient is going to be your butter as well. It kind of has a dual function, or your oil that's in there. So the reason you need all these components is we have our skin, obviously. And when you put in, the water is just means of a vehicle. Okay, so your water and your emulsifying wax, those are kind of like the vehicles. They don't really serve a purpose. You're really just trying to get it to perform on your skin. So your emollients, your oils and butters, that's going to help to soften the skin. And your humectants are going to help to keep the water, like we have naturally, there's water in the air, our deeper layers of the skin have water. And when you have water on your skin, like just out of the shower, for example, instead of that water just evaporating off, which is called transepidermal water loss, instead of letting that evaporate away, you can keep that on your skin, lock it in, so to say. If you take your lotion with a humectant in it, like the glycerin, and you rub that on, but it's gonna soften the skin with that oil, and then the humectant is going to help draw the moisture to your skin, and then the occlusive is going to seal it in. So if you don't have an occlusive to help kind of seal it in, then what's going to happen is then that it's just going to evaporate away, and it's going to pull the moisture out of your skin and go into the atmosphere. So you lose moisture unless you're locking it in. But there are some cases, like to me, we're really, really humid here. So if I put a hyaluronic acid serum on, I think it's fine because there's enough humidity in the air to kind of keep everything, pretty good. But if you go somewhere drier where there is like a zero humidity in the air, then what's going to happen is you put a humectant on the skin. Unless there's a barrier on there to seal it onto your skin, then what's going to happen is that humectant is going to pull water, because that's what it wants to do. That humectant is just like constantly drawing water. And if there is none in the air, then it's going to draw it from your skin. So it can actually make you drier. I don't have a good way to explain that, but I hope that makes sense. So just know that you want all three, okay? Okay, what else am I trying to say? I think that was all the notes that I made, actually. But one place to start with a lotion, and I'll go ahead and tell you guys, would be, and I didn't write down any percentages. Do I have one of my recipes right here? And I don't. Okay, so just know this, with your water, if you have it about 82%, 83%, somewhere in that range, you're going to have a good regular lotion, just a regular normal lotion. If you get your water at about 85% or higher, like 88%, you're going to get a sprayable lotion, okay? If you drop your water down to, 60%, you're going to have a nice heavy cream. And those are just, if you start with that, kind of like our foundation, like our cookie dough, if you start with that and then build on it, then, you just start with 100%. And then once you do, say you're going to do a lotion with 90%, well, that's a bit much because that would be sprayable. Let's just do 80% let's do 75% water. Okay, that's kind of a medium lotion. 75% water, write that down. And then you know that you're gonna have 1% on a preservative, or whatever your preservative calls for. You fill that in, and it's kind of like you're just reverse creating your recipe, because you know what percentages that you're gonna be, that can't change. Your water can change, but once you've decided in your mind what you want, write it down. Then there's ones that cannot change, which would be your preservative or fragrance oil, whatever that you're gonna add to it. Write that down. And then your emulsifying wax, a good rule of thumb is you want it 25% of the weight of your oil. Okay, so you know, you can go ahead and determine what the next thing would be to determine like how much oil and butter do you want. And you can say, okay, I want about 6% oil and 2% butter. So you go ahead and write that down. And then, so that would be 8% total. And then you would get 25% of that, which would be your emulsifying wax. And there's other things that you can add, like stearic acid and things like that. And all these percentages are like giving me a headache. And I feel like I'm confusing you. I hope I'm not confusing you. Now I feel like I should delete this video. I'm getting hot. I'm not going to delete it. I'll keep it. And maybe we'll just consider this an informative video. And maybe if you guys want an example of a lotion, I can give you guys one. Like break it down in percentages. And then you can take it from there. But you just start with your clean surface, clean hands, gloves, sanitize like with 91% alcohol or bleach, all your containers, your stick blenders, all that kind of stuff. And you know, you want to use distilled water and you want to boil it, and you want to hold it at a high heat for, you know, like 20 minutes to make sure everything's killed. So there's a lot of, the more I think I left off for you guys. But anyway, I hope this was helpful as far as just kind of getting you started. There's probably a crap ton of videos out there that are probably, you know, can help you more so than this. But every little bit that we can add to our knowledge base, I feel like helps. So anyway, I'm gonna quit talking now because my air conditioner turned on. It's like 30 minutes in, and I hope this was helpful because now I feel like I rambled a good bit. But anyway, I will talk to you guys next time. And I had somebody ask me about doing a video, which was a frigging amazing idea, and I thank you for that. But like I make my soaps with lard, and she knew that, and she makes her soaps with tallow. And she had a question about what do you say to customers that kind of look at you like you straight crazy for using animal product in your soap. Because there's a lot of people that frown upon using animal products, byproduct, in your soaps. And little do they know that sodium tallowate is tallow. And I say they, it's the people that probably use dial or whatever, and the first ingredient is probably sodium tallowate. But it's all about transparency of your ingredients. And people don't always know. They just assume at the grocery store something is whatever, but they don't realize that, you know, there's a lot of crossover and a lot of similarities. It's just our products, when they're handcrafted, don't have a lot of junk in them. So, and we're transparent about our ingredients. But anyway, so that'll be the next video, and I'm excited about that because that is a super good topic. And I know many of us probably struggle with that because the last thing you want is someone to come in your booth and be looking at you like, that's nasty. Like, why would you make that? And then sometimes just having a rationale to give to them can be helpful. So we're going to talk about that next time.